Continuing with this customer, we'll now take a look at training and services. So we've completed the intake, and if we select the training and services tab here, it'll open up a window that provides an overview of their career plan and services. So starting at the top of this overview page, you can see that the customer profile informations, career plan overview instructions, and participant summary tools are over on the left side. Over here on the right side in the center of the page, we can view and print the career plan as a printable file. And as we make updates to it, this can be accessible through here as well. We can update the plan status dropdown, and we can click the save status too. So for this, we will select customer agreement, upload it on file, and click save. And so we have that status right here. Below this, we have a few other sections. We can see that there are assessments, career paths, and accomplishments. The accomplishments shows the any earned credentials, completed goals, or completed services. As these are in the career plan, as they're added and completed, they will update here as well. And then below this, we have the career plan where we can see the goals and related steps for the services along with their statuses. And we can select, let's go to training services. We can select a service from this page. Click on this blueprint reading. And this will open up some other tabs, a page for this specific service. And we can add information here, which we'll get to in a second. There's a little bit more I want to cover first, but we can see that there's a few more tabs that and information we can add for this customer as they're navigating through this service. Okay, so if we go back to, I hit the back button there. And so that's the overview page for training and services. So let's click on this next tab here for review assessment. Here we can see the assessments for this customer. We can add an assessment survey or summary, I should say. And we can select an assessment area. We can choose from readiness training, employment, independent living skills, physical and emotional health, and leading skills. And so once we add this in here, let me just add some sample text here, where you would enter the customer's strengths, what they'll do to improve, what their service provider will do to support them, what their family will do, and if there are any other support needs. So we'll click to save those changes. Oh, let's just select an area up here. Let's say leading skills. So we'll save those changes, and that has been added. So if we just go over to summary, we can see that this and another one have been previously added. And if we need to, we can of course come back in and make and save those changes. Below here, we also have Illinois workNet assessments. These are assessments that are included in Illinois workNet, and as they're completed by the customer, those results will show up here. And there's a lot of different assessments that we have. Additionally, if there's other assessments that are not available through Illinois workNet, these could be added here as well. You can click this Add Assessments Result button, and then you can enter in the information for this assessment and save it here. So the next tab we're going to look at is for setting goals. And so we have a description here that goals should be written so they address barriers, employment goals, education and training, and relatable stackable credentials that can be earned to advance the customer through their career pathway. They should be realistic, measurable, and attainable. You can use completed assessment information to develop goals with the customer, and the customer will need to agree to the overall initial plan. And if additional changes are made to the customer's goal, the customer will need to agree to that update. So we have that statement up here. And in the goal statement table, we can see that there are some for wraparound training, support, and transition services, as well as one that was previously entered. I would like to acquire a job. And so we can see in this table here that we can view and add services to these goals, or if we need to, we can edit and remove them. And so to add a goal statement, you would just select the Add Goal Statement button, provide a description, select a category, identify if it's a short or long-term goal, and then what the status of that goal is. Is it not started? Are they on track? Are they off track? Or has it been completed? And we can see down here that I would like to acquire a job. This is for the career plan, a long-term goal, and that this customer is on track. And you may also notice that under plan services, we have view and add. And if we select view, this will take us to some of the services in here. And these were populating based on the answers that were given from the application in the intake. And for the add services, that'll also take us to this next screen where we can manually add services and assign it with that goal. So this is actually the next page I wanted to get on. So this is the Add Steps and Services tab. You may recall in another video that we added services that would show up for all customers' career plans for the customers that are in the program. And if you went through this process, these will be added in the section here under step 3. Otherwise, you will need to manually add the other services for customers. And we'll get to that in a moment. But to add services for customers in your program for their career plans, when you're in the grantee details section in the Customer Support Center and you scroll down to services, here's where those services that you added, you can add them manually or to edit services for all the customers on the career plan. So as you're adding them, these services will show up for their career plans as well. So that was just a reminder there. But to add a service, that may not be universal to all customers in the program, you can do so by adding them here. And we'll begin by selecting the Add Step Service button and search. And you can search and select for the services that you have added for your program. And we can also use filters for IWN category and IWDS service level to filter through the results. So in this case, we will just take a look here to see what services we have. And we'll add resume prep. So we'll click add. We'll get a note that has been added to the plan services section. So when we manually add a service from here, it will populate under step 2 in this assign step services to a goal, which are the items that appear here. So, if we need to remove the service, we can click this red X and delete it and add a new one, or to further edit this service, we'll click this pencil icon here. So we'll click that. And then this will take us back to that screen that we were on earlier, where we'll add information for that service. So for the resume prep, let's just go through this here. So for the goal, we will say that this is related to training services, and the planned start date of this service is, I'll say, as I'm recording this today, and the planned due date is, let's say, the end of the week. And then how many hours a week are you planning on? Actually, we're going to say next week. Sorry about that. How many hours a week are you planning on working on this? And we'll say 3 hours each week. We can also add additional notes here if we wanted to. And for status, we'll say that since we have started it, it is started and open. And you can also see we have options for successful and unsuccessful completion, evaluated and not required, and offered but declined, as well as planned, not started, which is I believe the default one. But So once we've added this in here, you can add additional notes here. You'll click Update Customer Service, and then you'll be asked to complete a case note. So we'll just say general. I'll just add some text for the subject and description for the case note, and we'll save the case note. Okay, so we see that it has been successfully updated, and it's been saved here. So then we'll just move along these tabs here and select the service provider. And so for the services, if a service provider has been used, you can select the partners that you've added, or other providers as well if this service was received, and you would just enter that location's name and their address, as well as the instructor. So we'll just say that this was for that partner. I'll select the instructor and update the customer service. And complete a case note. Nope. Okay, we can see that's been saved, and it did take us back to this status default page, but we will go to the next section here. And depending on the service, some of these tabs may not appear. If there's a cost to the service, it can be added here. You can see the fields for maximum pay allotted, the payment method, the start date, the individual payment cost, number of times offered at this cost, a description, what the service was paid by, a grant or leverage resource, and if the service counts towards the maximum allowed subsidized days for the individual. But again, not all services are going to ask for this. So we'll click attendance, and we can see we have a couple of weeks here. So for resume prep, we see that this is the information we added previously, the planned start and due date, as well as the number of hours that we plan to work on this. So since we said May 4th through May 13th, that would be this week and next week. So what we'll need to do to add the attendance is click on this link here, and this will open up a calendar. And you can see there's a lot of fields here that you can enter this information in. You can enter in check-in, the start of lunch, the end of lunch, checkout. If there's an absence, you can mark this here. And if there's a makeup session, that can be tracked here as well. But let's say that I worked on, or this customer worked on this for resume prep from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll enter 3. Those are required weekly hours, and we'll save and click OK. And then we can see that total hours for the week have been added here as well. And if we need to verify this, if you were with that customer, or somebody else can verify this, this can be verified here. We can just check that there. And you can see the timestamp of when and which user in Illinois WorkNet verified it. So then if we select the other one, we'll add 3 more hours. So 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. required weekly hours 3. So you can save it, which is what we did last time. But if you're the one adding this and you can verify this, you can just submit and verify attendance. And then you'll see that has the same result there. So we have completed those required hours for this service. Up next, we have the post assessments tab. And if there's a post assessment for this service, if it makes sense to add one, you can adjust the passing percentage for the assessment. And when you add the assessment, you just provide a name. You can do this now. Assessment 1, the score the individual received, and the date the assessment was held. We'll say that that's today, and click save. And so you can see the assessment's been added here. You can search through them if there's several assessments, or if one needed to be deleted, you can do that as well. And then we'll click update customer service, and we'll be asked to enter a case note. I'll just add that case note real quick, and it did default back to the status tab, but we can see that that information was retained over here. And so the last tab for this service we have is earn credentials. So if there is a credential tied to the service, what you can do is you can add it here manually by selecting this button here. And then you'll just fill out the information for this credential. So we'll give the credential a name, a credential source, the date it was attained, the credential type, the institution it is from, as well as a description. Then we'll click save. And then we can see that a credential has been added up there from the prompt, and we'll click OK. And then we can see that information that we just entered here. And if we need to view details or change anything, we can do so here, or if it needs to be removed, we can also do that. And so we've gone through the different tabs for this service. And so what we'll do is I will go back to the add step services page, which is where we started when we were adding the service. So we added it. Once it was added, we had to assign it, which was in here. And as you're kind of navigating through this and you're changing the progress of the service, since it was, it hadn't started, it was sitting in step 2. And then once we, added that we were going through it, it's been in progress, it's now been completed. We can see that it's moved down into here. So let's look for our resume prep, which is under training services. We can see the icons here. You can see there's a certificate tied to it. One of the things, though, to be careful of when you're doing you're adding and updating the services is to make sure on this status default page that once a service is complete, that on the status default for this service, you change the status over here to successful completion. And then you'll have to add the planned completion date as well. Because sometimes on that overview page, if this isn't marked as complete, you may have a flag if the date has already passed the planned completion date and this still shows up as in progress or started or open. That's something to check for. If you do see flags and all your customers have completed all their services and everything, is to come in here and just make sure that this status is marked as completed. And so we'll update this and we'll just add one more case note here. Okay, so then if we go to the training services and back to this page, we'll see under resume prep that date that we just added, the completion date, is here as well. And so yeah, in the event that you need to edit or come back or delete services that may not be applicable to the customer, you can do so here. Just click that red X and yes. And then you can see that reading rainbow service is no longer there. And then lastly, there's just one more tab that I want to show in this training and services is the update log. If you select this just shows a history of the changes that were made for the career plan and which user made those changes and when.